Oh, there's a story about me succumbing to a P3 syndrome and me ending up in that helicopter. This is just kind of prior before my incident happened in October, middle of October, over Columbus Day weekend.
Ooh, that's a problem.
What I found was there was a series of interruptions that I had. This being the first one. The tether on my pod harness I had rigged to the front of my ankle. I had taken a step to reset my wing when I realized well, that's a tripping hazard. So this is why we always stick our tethers to the outside of our shoe. But this is my first distraction right here. There was a series of distractions that happened prior before me coming up to launch, where my mental game was not in flying. I was totally distracted. Conditions were not horrible. This is a typical day flying from Dry Canyon. Wind was fairly laminar.
Good job,
Gunner
Rick.
took off just right before me, no problems. Kind of had big plans. This is
Okay.
11 o'clock in the morning. Had big plans to try to stay up and try to go a little bit far today. So had my jacket on. I'm a
Don't
little
jinx
bit
me,
warm.
Bo.
This is one of our friends from
It happens.
northern New Mexico. He says, go ahead and
I don't
jump
either,
up here.
but it happens.
In hopes that I'd be off quickly. However, I dropped my wing here, and somehow I'd just gone through my wing, and I got this inconceivable knot tied up. This rat nest is here, and it took me a little bit to get this figured out. But I finally got this thing figured out, and there was a slight thought in the back of my mind, maybe I should just back up off launch before I try to fly. But I says, nah, I got this. My overconfidence had
Thank you,
kicked in.
jinx me,
I
Bo.
can figure out this knot. I can lay this wing out. Conditions are not dreadful. Pretty beautiful, gorgeous morning. I got this. That was kind of my mental aspect.
There it is.
So I got the wings laid out. Got the lines pulled out. Pulled the wing up one time, and I was like, what in the world? And I identified a twist. I had a riser twist that was totally wrong direction that I ever turn. So I had to untwist this mess. And as I go to untwist, that was my second distraction. Now every line got hung up in my camera. I had a line hung up in my helmet. I had a line hung up on my
Told you, Bo, you jinxed
harness. My mental game is not in flying. I'm focusing on all these little distractions, and now I'm in a hurry to get off this hill and just enjoy the flight, enjoy this beautiful day. Whatever problems may arise, I got this. So got everything laid out finally, and finally it's looking pretty good. One of the things that I did miss also at this point, I was even thinking, well, let's go ahead and back off and let's reset. I always have a conversation looking for that one little thing that's going to kill me, and I never had this conversation with myself. Right here, I'm kind of pulling the wing up. Wing looked really good. There was no knots, no problems, no twists, no hitchhikers. So I decided to turn, and as I turn, if you pay attention to my right hand, I left it exactly where my risers were, thus inputting a right input into my wing. This right hand should have been much higher. So as I turn, there's a right twist here, tip here to the wing, and I'm concerned at the time that the wing was going to get too far in front of me, so I try to check it. And I keep my hands way down too far. I'm really restricting, especially the right side of this wing at this point. By this point, I'm out of runway. My hands are still way too low. I should have killed the wing before this point. However, my mental game is not about flying. I'm all about trying to get off this hill and quickly and in a hurry at this point. But I'm out of runway, and I'm not in a good place. Might want to turn this thing off or skip ahead at this point if graphic content, offensive language, or uncivil behavior disturbs you. But here's the whole sequence from my perspective.
Damn it!
I immediately felt like something was wrong in that right leg. I wasn't real sure.
Whew.
I remember focusing on picking my leg up and not impacting what I thought was a rock. But after watching this video a few hundred times,
Hey, it's normal. I
it's
just blew my launch.
clearly there was a dead yucca there, and there was a soto bush that my right hip, just above the mid thigh, right hip took the full force of. My very first thought was, I've got to get off this wing. So I'm going through the steps of disconnecting. I was really concerned about a gust of wind maybe grabbing the wing, dragging me back up the hillside at this point. And of course, thoughts of really not flying at all are running through my head here.
I gotta lay here, man, dude. I'm hurting.
Mental assessment.
Oh, dang it, shit on my leg.
There was no other impacts anywhere on my body, but I had this numbness in my right leg that I was a little concerned about.
No, I'm hurting in my leg.
Tried to stretch it out. I think it's somewhere in here, and that leg was not moving.
Hey Siri, call Gina Blue.
So realizing where I'm at, it's kind of rough terrain back in here. Where the launch paragliding launch is, we have to hike down off the top of the high ridge.
Yes, Norm.
My wife and
I hit myself really
some of the
bad.
other pilots are up on the high ridge where the hang gliders typically launch. About half of us launch from up there, and the other half had hiked down here in the interest of efficiency to get off this hill.
He needs a volunteer fire department. What happened, Norman?
I blew my launch. It's my right. I'm concerned about my. Hush up and listen,
please. So at this
please.
point, I'm already
concerned
thinking
about
that
my right femur and possibly
I'm going to need help to get back up to the top up there to at least get to a vehicle to ride down and
Is it open or closed?
no, nothing's
get an X-ray
open.
of that
It's just
right
like
hip.
hit the shit out of a rock.
But I'm not really sure how bad the damage is yet. So immediately after calling my wife, now I'm starting to think, well, I better activate my
I saw that
inReach.
rock coming too, and I was like, pick your leg up, and I didn't.
I'm thinking about maybe even needing a helicopter at this point, but I'm not totally good with the idea just yet.
Is there any blood?
Scraping. Just screws.
See if you can pick my leg up and pull it straight, possibly.
This one?
Yeah, right leg.
Okay. Right.
Left leg's fine. It's my right leg. Stop.
So right now, I'm pretty convinced I'm going to need a helicopter.
How about you help me get out of this harness?
Something big happening inside this leg.
Here, take my gloves off.
Your femur and your pelvis are very vascular structures. You can actually bleed out fairly quickly, and I know I'm in a bad spot, and it's going to be difficult to get off this hillside.
Chest strap.
All right, this one right here.
And I know I'm running on adrenaline at this point, so there's a whole bunch of things I want to get accomplished
there it is.
Yeah, phone.
before the adrenaline begins to wear off and the pain begins to set in.
The chest strap. It might have fell down right here.
Let's see here.
There it is.
You got the SAR plan?
I've never messed with an inReach before. I barely got this thing. Always assumed you just push the SOS button on the side and it would work, but that SOS button is actually a cap.
Hey Siri, call Gina
You have
Blue.
to remove the cap, push the button, and then hold it down for like 20 to 30 seconds. The other thing I learned in this process is you also then need to make sure it has a direct line of sight with the sky. I believe after pushing the inReach, it kind of fell down between my jacket and my harness.
Okay.
But I really wanted to get out of my jacket, get out of the gloves.
We're right on top of Dry Canyon, and I think we may want to consider a helicopter.
As best I can while we wait for the cavalry to arrive to get me off this hillside.
No, but it's my right femur, and I'm in a bad spot.
Right femur, and he's in a bad spot. We need a helicopter. Okay, we're working.
As I'm doing my self-assessments here, we're looking for any kind of bleeding.
All right. See this one right here?
Start assessing my breathing,
just puts a push through.
my mental response.
Norm, are you all right?
I'm in a bad spot. I'm a little concerned about my right femur. Possibly pelvis.
And we're also looking for any other injuries that may have been missed. I did my own head to toe.
Don't touch that.
And then the next 4 pilots who came down to be with me and helped me off this
Careful.
hillside
Watch that right leg, dude.
were very rather experienced in injuries and other wrecks through the years, and each one of those guys did their own head to toe on me.
Oh, just there. Okay.
Being mostly concerned about my right hip, my pelvis, my femur area, I instructed the guys to expose my right shoe, pull my shoe off, and start assessing my pedal pulse. And my pedal pulse was kind of averaging right around 80 beats per minute. But I wanted to be sure that the pulse was not being restricted from a blood vessel being cramped, my femoral artery being cramped, maybe some increased bleeding from my femur, possibly pelvis area.
God, dude.
James, you have a kit?
I don't have a kit.
Okay.
Let's try to.
He's not sliding, but he's not in an extremely stable spot.
There was a point where I could feel my body was compensating.
Man, I had your launch from 2 years ago, James. Except I drug this way instead of uphill.
As adrenaline began to wear off, my fingers kind of got a little cool, kind of got a little tingly in my fingers. My feet felt fine.
50 feet more.
My hips felt fine. My whole body felt fine, but I could tell that my body was definitely in compensation. As your body goes through the steps of sustaining this type of trauma, you always want to think about airway, breathing, circulation, look for any kind of deformities, expose any possible deformities or injuries. My right pant leg had actually shredded, so everybody had a good look to make sure, to confirm I was not bleeding from my leg. There was no open fractures anywhere on that leg.
Should we check for an update?
Once everything's exposed, you want to look for look at the temperature of your patient's skin. So I was that's when I noticed that my fingers were feeling kind of cool.
Well, you don't have to.
Pale, cool, clammy are classic signs of shock, so you need to identify this pretty early on. That's indicative of your body compensating from the trauma. After that, you need to get any kind of this is your first decision point. We either need to go to the hospital right here, right now, or we need to get some history. Well, there was no rapid way to get off of this hillside.
Where do you feel it, man?
Flight crew came down. You know, they got all their history from me. Some of my friends there had made an improvised splint to my right leg. The belt that was held together with two belts, and our belts had holes all the way through, from the beginning to the end of the belt loops. And I bought that belt specifically for this type of injury, to either be used as a splint or to be used as an improvised tourniquet to stop any kind of uncontrolled bleeding. So after that, you decide you need to get to the hospital or get history. I need to reassess.
Do you want to smile for your camera?
Hey, if you guys aren't doing anything, give me a hand with this link.
So we were constantly reassessing. Right here we have there's a haul team up on top. There's a rope running off the hillside down to where we're located down there, just below that flagging that you can kind of see blowing in the wind. You kind of see the rescue package is to the right of that, just a bit lower. And the guys at the rescue package tell the guys on top to haul. So they're going to take up the slack. They're going to haul nice and easy. So the guys at the package pick up the package, and the guys at the top pull the entire rescue package up this hillside. This is a pretty much textbook or classic low angle rescue setup. The only way it could be better is you take your rope, anchor it to one of those trees there, run it through a pulley to redirect the line. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys here on top. We have one person overseeing the entire movement. These 6 guys would then walk down towards the rescue package, creating a counterbalance for the package below to start lifting back up the hillside. However, I believe the rope was just a little too short to complete this evolution. So when that's the case, you usually use you can tie multiple ropes together. But you got to, in rescue, you got to be able to think on the fly and think outside the box. And these guys did a phenomenal job. At this point, I'm loading the helicopter and I'm heading down to El Paso. And I don't remember much after this until arriving at the hospital. Huge thank you for everybody that was involved in this operation. There's no way I could have got off this hill with the resources we had just on scene with myself, my friends, and local pilots. And without the helicopter, we would have, and the assistance of the volunteer fire department that came up, there's absolutely no way we could have got off this hill safely. Thank you for everybody who watched this, and I hope you learned from my mistakes. And please, please be very cautious anytime you fly. Make sure you keep your head in the game, especially as a P3. As a P3, we tend to think that we can handle any problems that may arise. And I had it in my head that even though I was being drugged down through the brush and even watching the video, I'm like, why didn't I lean left? I could recover this. But the correct answer would have been to kill that wing before I reached the end of that runway. And I totally failed in that endeavor. And I paid the consequence for that. And I am solely responsible for putting myself in this position. As a consequence of this, I had 3 fractures in my right femur. Those were fixed with pins. I actually sustained a minor fracture in the 5th metatarsal of my left foot. I smacked something somewhere in that process. And actually, at this point in the game, that's given me the most pain in my healing, or more so than what my right femur is giving. But anyway, learn from my mistakes. And as always, enjoy the ride, my friends. It's much shorter than we ever think.